So let's go ahead and take a look and see what comes in the box with the 6.5s. You get a warranty card. Now these 6.5s do come with a grill. That's them there. Nice big tweeter. Nice size magnet. They are 4 ohm. You get some brackets. These are Chrysler brackets. And of course a little set of pigtails. Now here's the factory speaker all out. And they're very similar in magnet size. As you can see, this was no joke back in the day. This was a pretty beefy speaker. Yeah. Now it just has this terminal in here that just unplugs. It actually unplugs from both sides, which makes it nice, which means we can reattach this to our speaker, and then our speaker will just screw in place and we can plug it in. Now what we want to do is go ahead and add some foam to the back of this. This already has foam on it, and that's really about it. And we can get these in the car. So like we said, it'll just plug right in, all good to go there. Now all we gotta do is get the door panel back on, and that'll make one more speaker all set and ready to go. So now that we have a plan for the speakers, we need to come up with a plan for this radio, and that is figuring out where everything is located. Looking at this, seeing how this one is 4-wheel drive, I'm gonna guess that the amplifier isn't located here, because that's typically where it's at, but if this is 4-wheel drive, it can't be there. So we're gonna start by pulling these 2 screws here. Now if you have 3 knobs across the front here, go ahead and pull those. They're going to be screws behind each one of those knobs. If you pinch right here and here and give it a little pull, it'll come right out. Now we want to go ahead and unplug these 4 harnesses and set this aside for right now. Now right away when you look in the dash, you're going to see one of the amplifiers. The other one is going to be located underneath this armrest, so we still have to keep going and pull this out. To do that, just lift up on the cup holder portion of it. The whole thing will come off. Remove the gear shifter for the 4-wheel drive, of course. Now to get this center console out, we are going to need a 10mm and also a Phillips screwdriver. At the base of the center console here and here are 2 little plastic clips that have a Phillips screw in the end. Just turn them counterclockwise and remove them. Be careful, they're typically very delicate. Now we have 2 10mm here at the front, 2 underneath the cup holders, and 2 more in the armrest. Now you can grab where the cup holders are and just kind of lift this thing up, pull it back a little bit. There'll be 1 main harness clip on the bottom. Clip it, pull it forward. And now we've exposed our 2 amplifiers. This one is going to be for the rear speakers, and this one here in the dash is going to be for the front speakers. Now on the amplifier itself, there's essentially 2 plugs. You have your input here, and then the bigger one on the other side is your output. A couple 10mm bolts are holding it in place. We can go ahead and remove those. And then there's a couple screws in the dash here and over here. We can remove those and take this one out. And of course the radio is being held in by 4 10mm as well. Now for right now we're done with the radio, but once it comes time to build the dash kit, we will need it again. So here are the 2 amplifiers. The one in the dash is the bigger of the 2 because it is powering the 6 speakers up front. So how it's divided up is the tweeter and the mid-range are on 1 channel. So this is a 4-channel amplifier, and then the 2 subwoofers are on 2 channels of their own. And then this is just a little 2-channel version of the amplifier for just the rear doors. There is a reverse harness that's going to allow us to not have to cut them, and it is the BHA 7712, and it'll plug right in, and we're all good to go. For the most part. Like most things in car audio, there is a catch, and that catch is going to be these wire colors have nothing to do with these plugs. They're totally different. So what we need to do now is figure out where these speakers are in the car, positive, negatives, and whatnot, and then we can pull these apart and repin them so they match our car. They're actually made for a Isuzu, just happens to be the right thing. And then for the radio harness, we're just going to use the BHA 8113. It has these RCAs on it. We're not going to be using those. The only thing we want it for is power, ground, accessory, illumination, amplified antenna. That's it. We'll cut the rest of this stuff off. Everything else we're gonna run out to those other two harnesses that we're gonna make. Now let's go ahead and get some tools and figure out what wires what. Now before we hop back into the car and start probing everything, let's go ahead and de-pin these wires out of here so that as we probe them, we can plug in the right ones. To do that, we're gonna use our little Delphi tool here that's made to do that. You guys can find these on D&F tool drawer. All right, so if all the wires removed, let's go over to the car now with a meter and meter everything out. All right, so for metering these speaker wires, we're gonna need two tools to do this. The first one we're gonna need is a digital multimeter. We're gonna go ahead and set it to continuity, and then we'll come over here and we'll do this. And that's the sound we want to hear. The second tool we're going to need is a polarity tester, and this is going to allow us to test the speaker that's already in a door. Because I was doing something else, Fernando's gone ahead and got that door panel on, so we're going to use a polarity tester for that one. And we're going to do that one first, actually. So we'll come over here, grab our pink and purple, we'll stick our probe in. We hear our familiar pop. We got a positive on the mid bass. Go ahead and test the tweeter. All right, so we have greens on those. Our red probe is on pink. Now the nice thing about the front is the plugs are gonna be the same. So if it's positive in the plug point there, it's gonna be positive in the plug point here. We wanna look over on our door panel and we actually have this guy right here. This is where the tweeter plugs in. The tweeter actually has Ys built into it and is coming out and feeding down to here with this pink purple wire to feed our mid-range. If I give this a yanking, the tape will come out, and as you can see, it's just a loop. And this side, the green and blue come into this and then come out and go down to the mid-range. Now over here in our dash, we also have green and blue. So let's make sure this green and blue and that green and blue are the same. For that, we're going to use continuity from our digital multimeter. And they are the same. So now we know what the front two speakers are. So the first thing we want to do is take our harness that we pulled all the pins out of, grab our grays and our whites. In the first two spots here, the second spot will be white, the first spot will be gray, and then on the bottom, we'll flip it and put the black stripes underneath them. And there we go, now we have a harness. We can come back into here. We can grab our continuity tester just to make popping noise so we can hear the front doors make sound. Popping noise. Now we're gonna repeat the process that we just did here on the rear speakers, but since the door panels are still off, we'll just do continuity between them, just like we did on the front. So after doing some testing, what we've come up with is that they're in the same location. This harness, which we made for the front, is identical, which we kind of figured it would be, to the rear, but always check. So the grays are on the outside here, the purples are on the outside here, the greens, and then the whites. What we need to do is lengthen these. This one underneath here needs to be about 5 feet long. I like to go a little long because I can always cut it. This one only needs about 12 inches longer. Let's head over to the bench and we'll get all these harnesses soldered up. So we went ahead and twisted up some purple and green. Now we'll go ahead and get it attached to our harness. And then we'll do the same with our fronts. Now if you are going to tape over your solder points like this, wait until your shrink wrap has cooled. Don't tape over the hot shrink wrap. Now for radio, as we said, we're going with the ILX W650. Go ahead and grab that out. Now if you've never seen a W650, it's this little guy right here. Short chassis, 7-inch or 6.95 inch, capacitive touch. Really nice. It ought to be interesting trying to mount it into the kit, but we just need this harness for right now. Now, if you ever notice on an Alpine, they have a bigger power wire and ground, and the reason why they have that is because they make the amplifier, the 455A, which is a plug-and-play amplifier, so they put a bigger power wire on it, just assuming that everyone's gonna buy that amplifier. It isn't a bad idea. Now what we wanna do is go ahead and solder on our light colors for speaker wire. Now that we have those hooked up, we'll go ahead and let the shrink wrap cool off before we finish taping it up, and we'll address the other wires that are on the harness. Now, an Alpine has a blue and a blue with a white stripe. The blue is going to be for an amplified antenna. The blue with the white stripe is going to be a remote turn on going to the amplifier. In this case, the P312 we're putting in for subwoofer. There's an orange-white. This orange-white in everyone else's world is illumination, including this harness here. But for Alpine, orange-white is backup camera. Backup camera on everyone else's radio is a purple white. Now he's not getting a backup camera at this time, however he may decide to get one down the road. When we have that, we go ahead and we always extend out backup camera wire so that we don't have to cut into our harness again. So we'll go ahead and add in a piece of purple white, that way we won't have to think about it later. Now the other color that is different on a Alpine as opposed to everyone else's is their emergency brake wire. Their emergency brake wire is this yellow blue wire right here. Even though this unit doesn't have a spinning media or anything like that, Alpine does put a brake wire on this because they don't want you necessarily getting into all the menus while you're driving down the road. So make sure you hook that up to something so you're not locked out. Now, because we are lengthening also the reverse, now we want to make sure we go in and add an accessory wire and also a ground. Now this Alpine does not have an illumination control because they're using that wire for reverse. So we'll just go ahead and cap off our car side's illumination control. Now that we have all our wires soldered up, we'll go ahead and tape everything up. Alright, our harness is all set and ready to go. We have our rear plug here, our front plug here, our behind the radio goes here, our radio harness is here. We have our remote turn on, our reverse trigger, and a power and ground for a camera if he ever decides to add one.